Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Coco Bandicoot here, and I am back for the likes of the Mexi Toys videos once again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Klonoa Fantasy Reverie series while we're still playing through Klonoa 2 Lunity's Veil for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X/S, PC Steam, and of course the Nintendo Switch. So, last time, we've essentially did manage to able to explore into, not only for the sake of the forms of empty Sea of Tears, but also we did somehow token out the forms of the next boss in the game, which appears to be Cursed Loria. And, of course, not to mention though, we did somehow also manage to able to explore into the Ark Revisited, which as a result, that is by far the longest level in the game by far, to be more specifically in Klonoa 2, Lunity's Veil. And as a matter of fact though, yes, I don't have to worry about just trying to able to go after this particular missing doll piece anymore, just because, well, it doesn't take me quite a few amount of tries or something. Well, for the most part, that is definitely the most difficult piece to obtain when it comes to trying to get the doll pieces, I'm pretty sure. So anyway, today for this video is about the fact that we're going to be continuing things on, and suffice to say, we're also able to actually finish up the rest of the story for the sake of the forms of Klonoa 2, Lunity's Veil, before we move on to the last few side content for the sake of the forms of Klonoa 2, Lunity's Veil, specifically in Klonoa Fantasy Reverie series version. So as you can tell, we're about to jump right into the next level, which, in my honest opinion, this particular stage is by far the hardest stage in the entire game, at least in my opinion. Not only if you want to get out of your way just to try to get yourselves every single crystals in this entire stage, but it's also about the fact that your lives were about to drain too fast. Or to be more specifically, you might able to actually come across into a game over every once in a while if you manage the first time playing it. Unless, well, we'll explain more about that if we manage to get this entire stage started. So, it looks like no matter what though, is about the fact that Laurana, alongside with the forms of Tad, that they're now joining the good side of all things. You know, just like the forms of how it does in the original PlayStation 2 version. So, yeah, I suppose that's all good and everything. Although, to be fair though, that Laurana does need a bit of a recovery after the events of that particular boss battle that we somehow already fight against with the forms of Cursed Laurana. So, in some cases though, yeah, we can pretty much guarantee we can able to actually tackle through not only the hardest stage in the entire game, but also straight to the point that we might able to actually come across into the final hoverboard stage, and on top of that, we might able to come across into the final boss in the game. So here we go, Kingdom of Sorrow. So in some cases though, it's about the fact that, as to be expected, we must make our way towards the very top of this particular kingdom itself. So as a result, like I said before, it's not only one of the hardest stages in the entire game, but it's also one of the longest too. Because no matter what though, this particular stage does encourages me to able to deal with a lot of trial and error from time to time. And relatively speaking, it's about the fact that hopefully though, unlike the forms of how it does in the original PlayStation 2 version, where basically Ray the Flying Squirrel did have a very, very tough time during the forms of this entire stage, at least from what I've heard anyway. So I'm hoping this won't be that much of an issue for this particular remaster this time around. Because no matter what though, unless if you're trying to able to go ahead and buy yourselves with the forms of those additional outfits, basically though, that if you manage to able to screw up at one point, luckily though you can able to actually just to go ahead and quickly change the outfit, and you can obviously reset back into where the previous checkpoint you've already active. So because of that though, yeah, not much else I can really discuss upon things. So either way, a few things I want to talk about this, and that's what appears to be about the fact that, well, today's date of course is the 2nd of April today, in some cases in 2024 today. Well, relatively speaking though, is about the fact that we've only just got about 2 more days to go until Freedom Planet 2 for the Nintendo Switch, along with multiple platforms as well, is expected to be releasing at some point soon. So yeah, that goes by a lot quicker than I was expecting in regards to the forms of how many days we've got left. In terms of the forms of some specific titles came out to be, or specifically trying to able to release during that time. So, as a result, I'm still looking forward to able to get my hands on Freedom Planet 2, because what I've heard, that game is actually really good. Even especially noticeable because, well, despite the fact that, like I said before, I still haven't exactly finished up everything from the first game just yet though, but hopefully I will do at some point, because luckily, since we still got the Switch versions, that means I can play the game on the go, unless if you're trying to able to get out of your way to able to buy Steam Deck, which does the exact same thing as the Nintendo Switch does, except the fact that I still don't have a Steam Deck, which as a result, because no matter what though, I'm not a big fan of the forms of digital only kind of media, because otherwise, if that particular account gets glitched up, or in some cases, worst case scenario, messed up, this means I've lost all of my downloads during that specific period, and it's even bad enough if some other games get delisted. Obviously though, it'll be a nightmare. Unless if you really want to get out of your way to able to do some bit of hacking to do, well, by all means, you can able to try to do that or something. Well, mind you about the fact that I've got nothing else to really add for this point, so anyway, and as far as I'm aware, yes, it's been about 5 days ago since I actually have last played this game for sure, because as far as what Maxi has already mentioned about this, ever since during the forms within the Boss Attack Silver video, during the course within a Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 playthrough, that recently, that Starlight Glimmer, she recently finished up everything in Mario vs. Donkey Kong Switch Remake. So because of this though, yeah, at the very least we did somehow manage to already taking care of that game now, before we move on to the next batch of Let's Plays for the majority of 2024, but we can't tell you exactly what the actual next specific Let's Play we are tackling through next. So because of that though, again, it's a super top secret obviously, so either way though, so it looks like no matter what though is about the fact that despite the fact I accidentally activate that particular blue fairy thing early on, because I was attempting to try to able to get some more jewel points, so just in case I can might as well able to guarantee to able to get that next, well, let's just say the first ever scrapbook page that I somehow desperately want to unlock, but chances are though, it is really difficult without any DLC. Although, I will admit though right away, the original PlayStation 2 versions considered to be a little bit more difficult during the forms of the lack of DLC, or even with the forms of the lack of quality of life improvements over the likes of the HD remaster treatment. So, now, as far as I'm aware, it's about the fact that recently, during that specific period, that, do you guys even remember about the fact that during the forms within a couple of days ago, potentially speaking, that we accidentally did say about the fact that during the course within the halfway point of March, that we originally did say about the fact that Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the movie, has officially been wrapped up filming. Well, as it turns out, we were completely wrong, because as far as I'm aware, it did somehow happen by the end of March. To be more specifically, it did somehow happen since in the 29th of March in 2024, to be more specifically in Good Friday. And as it turns out, it's about the fact that yes indeed, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 has now officially wrapped up filming, which I was assuming about the fact that James Marsden did somehow mention that earlier, but as it turns out, it does not seem to be the case. So even then though, we do apologize about the forms of this wrong set of information we'd like to point things out. Well, that's just mainly because I didn't pay attention to the forms of the actual full description for it. Well, that might be besides the point, I guess. So, and as far as I'm aware, it's about the fact that yes, technically speaking, that Capcom 74 did somehow manage to come back into Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, but as it turns out, ever since in Journey Forms even yesterday, that he did somehow place a different game for the sake of the forms of the April Fool's joke, and oh no, don't tell me he somehow got Balan Wonderworld, in some cases the worst games ever made, Journey Forms within 2021. Oh no, I can't even believe that he somehow got it, for I've heard anyway, because as far as I'm aware, he actually got it on PC Steam, and as far as I can gather about the fact that he did tell me about the fact that he did somehow got it for a cheaper price, much like the forms of how it does it for Pac-Man World Repack, although I will admit that right away, I honestly do prefer, let's just say, not only Pac-Man World Repack for the sake of the forms of how good that remake is, even though despite the fact that with the forms of the lack of English voice acting is involved, well, still, no matter what though, I still managed to enjoy, you know, Pac-Man World Repack, as you probably already know, ever since in last year in 2023, during the Forms of Summer season or something like that, or almost pretty close to summer or something. So, anywho, and as far as I'm aware, I honestly do prefer another game that's pretty similar to Balan Wonderworld, except the fact that, well, it's all around you play as Princess Peach of all things, which obviously, that no matter what though, I think we should probably save that particular topic and join at some point, if we decided able to tackle through Princess Peach Showtime eventually, but we can't really tell exactly when it's gonna happen exactly, because I already know for a fact that recently also, about the fact that Maxi is now working on the last bunch of DLC for the Sacred Forms of Sonic the Hedgehog 2006. That's of course very hard mode in Journey Forms within every single stages in the game, which I'm sure enough though he'll explain more about the specific details in mind during at some point in the next couple of days, in between, you know, with this usual uploading schedules between Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays essentially. So, and once we're done with the Forms of Sonic 06, we have no idea what's going to be up next. In terms of the forms of some of those Sonic Let's Plays, we might consider doing redo Let's Plays from, or even in some cases like some other additional uploading schedules for specific Let's Plays in the past. Likely, for instance, is about the fact that, well, as far as we've already mentioned about this before, that ever since Journey Forms have been a couple of days ago, that we decided able to rename the entire playthrough of Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing into Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing Grand Prix. So as a result, no matter what though, I'm sure there might be a possibility we can able to actually toggle through mission mode eventually, which, that'll be fun though. Especially noticeable about the fact that I don't think it's possible about the fact that we can probably do it on the 360 version, because after all, we did the majority of the Grand Prix, in addition with some extra content for the sake of the forms of the Xbox 360 version. So, I may be thinking, not the Wii version though, because what I've noticed is that the Wii version on mission mode is incredibly difficult, mainly for the sake of the forms of motion control sensitivity. Although, you can able to actually use the Wii Classic controller if you decided able to actually go for that, to make it a little bit more of a traditional control scheme. Especially noticeable, it managed able to help me a lot if I decided able to actually decide to do one of those missions that involves around you play as Big the Cat, and obviously your objective on that mission is that you have to avoid breaking certain jars, because otherwise, if you break too many jars, then the lower the rank you get. So, to be more specifically, I feel like that maybe the classic controller will be the better option when it comes to that specific control scheme, because with the motion controls, with the Wii mode, it'll make things a little bit unintuitive. So, that seems to be the case, which is especially noticeable because that is how that the Xbox 360 version, alongside with the PlayStation 3 version, for I've played those in the past, that it seems that that particular mission doesn't give me that much trouble in the past few years, whenever I experience not only the 360 version, but also with the PlayStation 3 version as well. But back in the day, at least what Sonic did actually tell me something about the fact that he did have a lot of trouble on the Wii version, just because, well, the control scheme he did somehow use is the Wii mode sideways, with the addition of the forms of the Wii wheel, similar to the forms of how it does it in Mario Kart Wii, mind you. So no matter what though, is about the fact that maybe I'm also able to give the Wii version another chance, for able to actually hopefully try to get back into that version, because it's been, you know, donkey's years since I actually have last experienced the Wii version of Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, because mind you, we pretty much already accustomed to not only the Xbox 360 version, but also the PlayStation 3 version as well, just because of the visuals, and not to mention though some additional extra content that was found that is not on the Wii version. So because of this though, relatively speaking though, is about the fact that in regards to the forms of DLC though, it's already became a thing on not only on the Xbox 360 version, but also on the PlayStation 3 version as well, with Metal Sonic and the Egg Hanger track. But it will be kind of unfortunate though, especially noticeable for those of you who ever experienced the Xbox 360 version of Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. As you know about the fact that the Xbox 360 marketplace is about to shut down during at some point until the next 3 months. So yeah, it's gonna be pretty upsetting, especially noticeable that it's kind of unfortunate that just like Sonic the Hedgehog 2006, that Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing is sadly not backwards compatibility for the likes of the phones of the Xbox One, in addition with the phones of Xbox Series X/S. So yeah, it will be kind of a missed opportunity for the sake of the phones of the lack of backwards compatibility issues for the sake of certain games and stuff like that, which again, very unfortunate indeed, especially noticeable because every once in a while everyone else starts able to actually now buying not only Xbox Series X every now and then because of the forms of higher frame rates, in addition with the actual good quality and all that stuff, but also with PlayStation 5 as well. Even though, mind you, that PlayStation 5 does have backwards compatibility with PlayStation 4 stuff, except with the forms of some PlayStation 3 stuff, just because no matter what though, that although it technically does have the backwards compatibility with some PS1 stuff, in addition with maybe, I don't know about the PlayStation 2 for sure, but I do know for the fact that with Ape Escape 1 and 2 are the only ones able to actually have the backwards compatibility system capacity for the likes of not only for the sake of the forms of the Ape Escape 2, it was likely a downloadable version of the PS2 version, despite it was basically a port, or just, well, potentially speaking, it's like an emulated port to the original PS2 counterparts. So, except the fact that you do have a trophy support on the PS4 version, along with the PS5 version, or to be more specifically, the PS4 version to be more specifically, whilst compared to the first Ape Escape, not only does it came out digitally every once in a while, not only on PlayStation 4, but also on PlayStation 5 as well. So because of that though, and that game also has trophies as well. And it seems kind of weird that Toy Story 2 is the only game exception to that matter, because no matter what though, that game does not have any trophies, which that seems kind of odd, concerning for the fact that I've already managed to beat that game, or completed the game fully 100%, quite a lot of times in the past, ranging from, let's just say, 2014 all the way up to 2019. Now I suppose maybe I should probably be able to play that game again, at some point in the future, to be more specifically on, I don't know, on PS4 version or something, just in case I can able to actually instantly try to able to replay, or maybe I can probably able to get myself the worst version of the game, which appears to be the Nintendo 64 version, which not only for the sake of my nostalgia, but also with the forms of just able to compare, not only the CD-based version of Toy Story 2 the game, compared to the cartridge version on the Nintendo 64. Although, I was originally trying to able to actually guarantee to get myself the Dreamcast version, but to be more specifically than that is about the fact that I feel like that the Dreamcast version is pretty expensive now, and on top of all that stuff though, I basically done purchasing some other games for the Sega Dreamcast, because to me, Sonic the Hedgehog alongside with Rayman 2 The Great Escape are the only ones I do care for, just because not only with Rayman 2 The Great Escape for the Dreamcast version is more superior because of, you know, smooth frame rates, despite the fact I still haven't completed that version just because of all that stupid Dreamcast resetting problems, and on top of that, same applies to the forms of the original Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2 as well, and let's not forget ourselves with Sonic Shuffle as well, just because I still haven't, not only haven't unlocked every single mini-games, but also with the forms of every single playable characters as well. To be more accurate though, with E102 Gamma, as well as Big the Cat, and even Chow and Super Sonic, and because of that though, I still have no idea how on earth I'm supposed to unlock those specific characters. I know it could be something related to the fact that you can't able to actually access to, I don't know, a puzzle mode of any sorts, because as far as I'm aware, if you manage to able to, like, accomplish certain tasks or anything else like that, even though it's not clear to me. So because unlike the forms of how it does it in let's just say, for example, in Mario Party 6, that basically that one of those unlockable characters you can unlock, which appears to be Toadette, and in order to do that is that you need to buy that character for about 30 stars as in the forms of the Star Bank. And another example of this is in Mario Party 7 when you unlock Bodo and Dry Bones, and both can be unlocked in a duty-free shop, and you have to spend about 1,000 points each, so that way you can able to actually play as not only Bodo, but also with Dry Bones as well. And another example of this, which appears to be in Mario Party 8, that not only you have to experience a single-player campaign once, but twice as well, if you really want to able to unlock not only Blooper, but also Hammer Bro as well. So you have to experience Star Battle Arena within both playthroughs. So that's a bit tiring to me though, especially noticeable about the fact that if you really want able to try to go for this worst board in the game again, likely for 2 times, basically though, King Boo's Haunted Hideaway will be your frustrating experience just because of how luck-based that board can be. And also, not to mention though, with the forms within Mario Party 9, that thankfully you can only experience the solo mode at least once until you're able to actually decide able to unlock not only both Shy Guy, but also with Kamek or Magic Koopa, depending on what region you lived in. So, potentially speaking of, that's self-explanatory. And there's also another self-explanatory example, which was in Mario Party Island Tour, where you also have to experience a single-player campaign once in Bowser's Tower, and basically if you beat that mode once, you're able to unlock Bowser Jr. And meanwhile, in Mario Party 10, it's about the fact it has the exact same solution as in Mario Party 7, where basically in order to able to unlock both Toadette and Spike, you have to able to purchase those characters in the shopping menu in Toad's room. So, at least as far as I can usually I'm aware for this point. And in addition to that, I believe both of those characters do cost about 600 Mario Party points each. So that's usually that. And also in Mario Party Star Rush is that there was actually a level up system. So yeah, nothing else I can really tell for this point. And in Super Mario Party, you have to able to go through specific conditions, like in River Survival for Donkey Kong, and I believe Dry Bones on random sort of occasional events. And as far as I'm aware, both Diddy Kong and Pom Pom are usually appeared in Challenge Mode, unless if you really want to unlock every single minigames first. So, either way, as you can see, that's as far as I can try to able to explain about the forms of that specific unlockable characters requirements. So, anyway, back into the forms of Klonoa 2 for a second, because as you can tell, we've somehow completed Kingdom of Sorrow, which as a result, geez, it did took me about almost 20 minutes for that level, but that's just mainly because, like I said before, that stage does encourage me to able to deal with a lot of trial and error situations sometimes, but thankfully though, we at least managed to able to complete that stage okay enough, despite the fact I've wasted quite a few extra lives. So, anyway, so now let's move on to the next level, which appears to be the final hoverboard stage. And as it turns out, we're going into the Forgotten Path. So, basically though, this entire stage is pretty tricky as well, but thankfully the actual length of this entire stage is overall pretty short. So basically though, it's about the fact that we need to dodge a lot of those hazards, ranging from blue flamethrowers, and especially noticeable with some narrow paths that almost reminds me of the forms of like I was experiencing a Super Monkey Ball type of obstacle courses. So relatively speaking though, that's as far as I can try to able to explain any of that. So anyway, and there's also another thing I want to mention about this as well, is about the fact that I'm pretty concerned about the fact that we've almost actually onto 1 month left until Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door on Switch is going to be coming. So because of that though, still I'm very excited able to actually give that game a revisit, thanks to the forms of, you know, the Nintendo Switch version does now exist. So as a result, I'm super pumped for it, and I'm pretty sure I'm also able to try to pre-order that at some point later on in Journey Forms within this month, which is April. So because of this though, yeah, nothing else to really add about this, I guess. So either way, so, as far as I'm aware, there's also another thing I want to classify for mentioning about this as well, despite the fact that, unfortunately though, is about the fact that my phone's battery is almost dying. So, even then, I will definitely need to do a bit of a phone charging department until for later. So, speaking of the forms of remake or remaster treatment, I actually did look upon something in regards to the forms of, let's just say, 4 different categories for the sake of the forms of remasters versus remakes. Because obviously they did somehow manage to address not only 1 but 4 catalogs, which there are enhanced port, remaster, faithful remake, and reimagining. So they've listed for about quite a few games in regards to the forms of one of those particular remasters or one of those particular remakes. So, for instance, I think usually in 3 games in particular that was actually located in enhanced port, which there are Pikmin 1 and 2, and yeah, because both of those games did originally came out on the Nintendo GameCube and then later get ported over to the Wii version for able to add in, you know, Wii Remote motion controls, and then they ported the game again, but this time on the glorious Nintendo Switch, so you can able to experience those 2 games on the go. And yeah, that's as far as I can think about it. The Last of Us Part 2 Remaster is often considered to be the enhanced port to the PlayStation 4 game, which, as it turns out, yeah, it's basically identical to the PS4 game, except the fact that with enhanced graphics and all that stuff on the PlayStation 5 re-release or something. And for Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury is obviously the enhanced port, but it actually does contain some quality of life improvements, like, you know, faster running speed with all the characters, and on top of that, additional side adventure. And of course, not to mention though, there's also multiplayer on the Captain Toad levels, and pretty much you name the rest of it. So, and as far as I'm aware, there's also the forms of the remaster treatment, which they've somehow listed for about 4 of those games in particular, which there are The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker HD on the Wii U. Seriously, I really still wish if that game will be ported over to the Switch at some point. Well, usually it's kind of difficult to tell. For Metroid Prime Remastered is often considered to be a remaster, and Sonic Cross Shadow Generations often considered to be a remaster, and let's just hope that particular remaster does not get butchered ever since Enduring Forms have been Sonic Colors Ultimate, or yeah, just anything else like that. And for Xenoblade Chronicles the Definitive Edition, it's likely a mixture of both between remaster and faithful remake. And as far as I'm aware, compared to the other 3 games, which is Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe, and even with The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening on the Switch version, and heck, even with the most recent faithful remake, which is of course Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, 3 of those games in particular, it will be a faithful remake indeed. And as far as reimagining version, which there are, let's just say, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and Resident Evil 4 Remake, and Super Mario 64 DS, 3 of those games in particular are considered this to be reimagining. So because of that though, yeah, that's actually quite an interesting selection in regards to the forms of that particular, well, faithful remakes or just ports or anything else like that. So either way. So enough about that particular comparison's sake. So here we go folks, on to the final level in the game, or should I say the final boss in this entire Klonoa 2 Lunity's Veil, and straight to the point is about the fact that we're going to be taking on King Zoro, which as a result, it kind of reminds me like the forms of the Klonoa version of Shadow, except the fact that, well, obviously Shadow becomes the mainstay for the majority of the forms of the Sonic games basically, after realizing about the fact that, well, you get the idea for this point of how popular Shadow was, whilst compared to Silver the Hedgehog, well, it was basically overshadowed, which I'm not exactly sure how do I, well, fully explain any of this clearly. Well, mind you, because like I said before, it's been about 5 days ago since I've last touched this game for sure. And maybe exponentially speaking though, is that we might able to actually finish up this entire game of Klonoa Fantasy Reverie series at some point this week. So that'll be around that time, about the fact that we can also try to able to say this right now, I can possibly try to able to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the film's release of Rio 2. So that'll be a pretty cool coincidence, especially noticeable. I still really wish if Rio 3 will still happen. But let's just say, unfortunately though, it is currently unknown at this rate, which I'm really still hoping that'll be the case. because obviously I still really enjoyed the Rio films, although despite the second film does have its problems, which then again I'll explain more about it if we decided able to celebrate the 10th anniversary of Rio 2 at some point in this Thursday coming up, to be more specifically for those of you who lived in the UK, whilst compared to the American version has to wait until specifically the 11th of April, which as a result, it's like a 7-day gap, at least as far as I can usually tell for this point. So anyway, oh, I also forgot to mention about to you guys something, is that yes indeed, there was actually a new trailer just popped up, and that's what appears to be this Netflix exclusive movie that's going to be releasing at some point until, goodness gracious, it's going to be 10 days onwards. So, okay, that does seem a little bit more weird for that little circumstances as far as I'm aware. So, in one of those films in particular I was referring to as, yes indeed, that Woody the Woodpecker, or Woody Woodpecker I should say, goes to camp. So, yeah, as a result, yeah, it's gonna be around the corner, which as a result is gonna be on, well, Netflix and all that stuff, and as a result, it's not gonna be that good. Which, as a result, after that particular atrocious first film, in turns the forms of the Woody Woodpecker live-action movie somehow adapt, and as a result, I bet a lot of people are not very excited for the sake of the forms of the second film, myself included, which is especially noticeable because obviously I'm still looking forward to see, you know, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 once that particular film decides to come out, and I think in addition to that, it's about the fact I believe Knuckles the series is almost just around the corner. Well, to be more specifically, once we get to towards the end of April in this month, so around that time I can probably able to give that series a chance, or to be more specifically, just try to give the series a shot, just to know about the forms of how the entire structure of the series actually plays out to be. So, still, I'm very optimistic to see how the series actually turns out to be. So, either way, here we go. As I said before, we're going on to the final boss of the game, which appears to be the King of Sorrow, which we're about to take him down. Now, usually speaking though is about the fact that we've already did manage to take care of the forms of the first phase of the fight, where basically though we have to force able to go onto the hoverboard, and basically though you have to dodge a lot of those specific obstacles, and in addition to that you have to pick up these specific weird things to use as projectiles, and then just try to toss the projectile right back at the forms of that particular first phase of the fight. Whilst I believe we're now on to not only the second phase, but also the final phase of the fight. So, yeah, generally speaking though is about the fact that I believe that particular boss itself will be self-explanatory, because unlike the forms of how it does it in Nahatube, in, well, as I say, Klonoa Door to Phantomile, that is usually divided into 3 phases. Whilst in here, though, I think there was just only 2 phases that we can able to take him on. So, either way, though, that might be saying something. So, and it looks like Lorana decides to able to help us, and as a result, she's probably going to able to transfer all of the elements into our Wind Ring, so that way we can able to have the ability to able to stop the King of Sorrow himself. Although, despite the fact that he doesn't seem to be that threatening, but it's just about the fact that it's one of those misunderstanding kind of moments or something, which even then though, again, it's been about 5 days ago since I've last played this, for sure. So, either way, the next thing I want to talk about is that speaking of the forms of Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the movie, I love the fact that, it did shows the image of some person who actually did somehow manage to able to hold up the actual, a clipboard, where basically is about the fact, I love the fact that they did show us a sketch drawing of not only Sonic the Hedgehog, but also with Knuckles and Tails, but also in the middle there's Shadow, which as a result he did say on the speech bubble, that's a wrap. So this means that yes indeed, the film has been wrapped up filming, and I love the fact that when it comes to the forms of those stripes on the actual clipboard, when you go like, lights, camera, action kind of stuff, well, it seems to be more specifically, we're about to be having, 2 colors representing both Sonic and Shadow, respectively. You know, just like the forms of how it does it on the actual logo of Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the movie, as well as the forms of Sonic Adventure 2 logo as well, either on the Dreamcast version, or the GameCube version, or, the HD port remastered versions or something. So yeah, that seems pretty cool though. And also get this, is that one of those persons in particular is actually wearing a pretty cool shirt, which actually represents Jim Carrey. And as a result, it did say, Jim Carrey, or keep calm and Jim Carrey on. So yeah, that seems pretty cool to able to know if that shirt exists or something like that. So yeah, that does seems pretty cool though. Oh, in addition to that though, it's about the fact that until next week, I'm presuming so anyway, that apparently though, on April the 9th, that Kung Fu Panda 4 will be releasing on digital platforms during at some point during next week, which I was not expecting to know about the forms of that particular digital platform version of that particular film is going to be approaching into its release, which I'm not exactly sure how do I explain about this. Well, usually relatively speaking, I was about the fact that it's been almost about, at least specifically the UK version, it's been about 5 days ago since the UK version has been released during the forms of in a big screen. So as a result though, I still managed to enjoy it regardless, despite the fact that, well, usually relatively speaking though, it's about the fact that, well, although the film has been doing well despite being mixed by many, and it's most likely due to the fact that the Furious 5 did not really show up here, which as a result, yeah, it's kind of unfortunate though, especially noticeable what makes the other films super iconic is that not only Po was the actual main character, but also alongside with Po, that the Furious 5 did somehow join in the phrase for the sake of the forms of certain combat and all that stuff, which as a result, that's no longer the case for the fourth one, unfortunately, which as a result, it does kind of remind me of the similar situation as the forms of in, you know what I'm saying, with the forms of Toy Story 4 a little bit, because obviously in Toy Story 4, about the fact that the main focus is obviously both Woody and Bo Peep, as well as the forms of Buzz Lightyear on a rare occasion, but either way though, that particular topic can wait, especially noticeable because as you can tell, that basically the final boss has been defeated very easily, despite the fact I did die twice, but that's just mainly because no matter what though, is about the fact I keep on getting hit most of my time. Not only for the sake of the forms of one hit left for the likes of our health disposal, well, to be more specifically when the actual phase of the fight starts, but it's also I didn't exactly pay attention to the forms of this unpredictable pattern sometimes. But overall, not too bad of a fight, even though it's actually ridiculously easy. So because of this though, yeah, and as it turns out, we did somehow activate the final bell, which as a result, I'm not exactly sure how to explain about this, because no matter what though, well, actually, kind of thinking about it, there is technically one more thing I want to mention about, is that, well, as it turns out, we actually did indeed get ourselves a new announcement for the sake of the forms of a closed beta version for the likes of Kingdom Hearts Missing Link, specifically on the Android phones, and as a result, yes indeed, they somehow confirms the actual release schedule. And as it turns out, not only is it going to be starting for the sake of the forms of the closed beta version of the likes of Kingdom Hearts Missing Link, and during at some point on the 25th of April, which should be in this month. So, and as a result, that's going to be roughly around the exact same time as in not only Velma Season 2 is going to be releasing, which I'm still going to be skipping over because what the heck thought it was such a good idea, and in addition with Knuckles the series as well on Paramount Plus, which I'm also very excited for. So even though it's kind of unfortunate about the fact I don't think it's possible I can able to actually just try to able to play Kingdom Hearts The Missing Link just yet though. Well, that's just mainly because no matter what though, we still have no idea when does that game is going to get finalized, for not only for Android phones, but also on Apple phones as well. Well, we shall see in a later time, but even then though, yeah, as it turns out, is about the fact that the King of Sorrow did somehow manage able to sacrifice himself or something like that, and as a result, it did turn into the final element orb. So, and a day is saved, basically. So, what could possibly go on from this point next? Well, according to the forms of how the fact that, well, to be more accurate though, that we have no idea what the actual story timeline as far as this is concerned, but that's just mainly because, well, it seems kind of unfortunate there's no Klonoa 3 either. Well, that's just mainly because, for what I've heard anyway, back in the day anyway, that in the English version of the Klonoa games, for some odd reason, does not sell well, whilst unlike in Japan, does, which I'm not exactly sure how do I explain any of all that. Well, even then though, that might be some little bit of a, well, I don't know how do I explain about any of these things. So, and as far as I'm aware, is about the fact that I'm pretty sure the Kingdom Hearts Missing Link closed beta version, you know, with the test schedule, like I said earlier, it's going to start until the 25th of April, but then it ends until the 2nd of May, at least as far as I can definitely recall that. So, yeah, it's going to be one of those. Actually, kind of think about it, it's going to end until roughly the exact same time as when Endless Ocean Luminous for the Nintendo Switch is going to be releasing. So, yeah, that's a strange coincidence for Able to actually just trying to pull up with the forms of, well, you know exactly what I'm about to talk about. So, but, yeah, I'm afraid to tell you, that's as far as I can try to say about this, I guess. Although, nothing major, mind you, but it's just about the fact that I've already explained quite a few bits from time to time, aside from the fact that, well, like I said before, and during at some point in this Thursday coming up, obviously we'll celebrate the 10th anniversary of Rio 2 as the film itself, especially noticeable that, again, it does have some problems for sure, to be more specifically with the story and what have you, but even then though, you probably get the idea of why I was able to explain any of that stuff. So, anyway, that's as far as I can say. Well, apart from the fact that I was attempting to try to go back onto Sonic Dash at one point, but I'm afraid to tell you is about the fact that unfortunately I'm going back to Mario Kart Tour again, which as a result, because I'm going back onto Yoshi Tour at some point during the likes of tomorrow, and yeah, that's as far as I can say about it. And it's actually pretty cute right there with both Klonoa and Lolo just somehow managed to able to get a nice little relationship thing. Well, usually relatively speaking, it was about the fact I just feel like that Lolo was actually the most adorable character, to be more specifically, in this remastered version of Klonoa 2, because I seriously think that her design looks really, really adorable looking. So, that's the way how I feel about it anyway, and I'm sure enough that was about the fact that, well, she will continue to appear not only for the likes of the Klonoa Beach Volleyball game on the PlayStation 1, but also that she will get her brief appearance for the likes of not only, let's just say, Klonoa 2 Dream Champ Tournament for the story purposes, and also Klonoa Heroes Legendary Star Medal, which as a result, that I get the feeling about the fact that Lolo did somehow appear in multitude of Klonoa games more than Hyupo. Well, I think relatively speaking is that both of those characters do manage to appear in the exact same amount. Well, usually relatively speaking is that Hyupo did somehow appear in 4 games in particular, which is of course Klonoa Door to Phantomile and Klonoa Moonlight Museum, and even especially noticeable with Klonoa Empire of Dreams, and especially noticeable that Hyupo is the host of the forms of the, you know, Klonoa Beach Volleyball, and as far as I'm aware, Lolo also appears in 4 games, which is of course, you know, like I said before, Klonoa 2 Dream Champ Tournament, alongside with Klonoa 2 Lunity's Veil, and as well as the forms of Klonoa Beach Volleyball game, as she was a playable character in that game, and on top of that, Klonoa Heroes, the Legendary Star Medal. So, yeah, that's as far as I can try to say about that. So, and also kind of thinking about it is that the water texture on the staff credit sequence does kind of reminds me like I was experiencing The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker a little bit. Although except the fact that this game did technically came out before The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker for the GameCube version most likely. So even then yeah, that's as far as I can try to able to explain any of that. And of course in the staff credit sequence it did show us the forms of some of those other pictures right here. And as a result, they did show us the aftermath after trying to sort out with the forms of Lunity itself. So, but all in all, I actually still managed to be able to really had a great time experiencing Klonoa 2, Lunity's Veil again, except the fact that it's now on, you know, multiple platforms, like I've already established that before. So, But of course, like the forms of how it does it on Klonoa Door to Phantomile in the forms of the Fantasy Reverie series version, we're still not exactly completely done with this game just yet. Because obviously, no matter what though, there is technically not only one, but two other secret levels that we can able to see and check out. Because no matter what though, it's about the fact that, like I said before, we're about to be experiencing every single stages in the game. And speaking of which though, we did somehow manage to claim every single doll pieces. So you know what that means? It's time to head back into somewhere in Joliant. So just to ensure about the fact that we can able to talk to some person out there, so that way we can able to deliver the last batch of those specific dolls, and that way we should be able to actually not only unlock one of those secret levels, but also with the another secret level as well. Although thankfully though, when it comes to the forms of the final two levels coming up, thankfully though, it does not require us able to waste too many extra lives, whilst compared to the forms of how it does it for the likes of Kingdom of Sorrow, which I will still say that is by far the hardest stage in the entire game in my opinion. All because no matter what though, at least if you really want to get out of your way, again, if you really want to go after all of those crystals, then good luck with that, especially on the original PlayStation 2 version, so... But yeah, like I said before, there's nothing else I can really say about this, I guess, because obviously there's not much else I can speak about. So yeah, I suppose with that being said though, it's about the fact that, well, we're also able to say this right now, that we're also able to end off the video right here, I can assure you for this point. So yeah, join me next time for more of Let's Play of Klonoa Fantasy Reverie series while we're still playing through Klonoa 2, Lunity's Veil. Is that, potentially speaking of, this is going to be the true finale for the likes of Klonoa Fantasy Reverie series, and at the same time with Klonoa 2, Lunity's Veil, because like I said before, not only we can able to show off some extra bits, specifically, not only if you beat the game for the first time, you're able to once again unlock hard mode, but also you were able to get a chance to experience not only one, but two secret levels, and that's as far as I can try and able to explain any of that stuff. So yeah, I'm sure you may be looking forward to that at some point in this Thursday. So I'll see you guys until on Thursday. Later, fellas.